It's time, once again, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you another edition of the Cook and Joe Showdown. And this is involving all sports, not just Steelers, although we did talk a lot Steelers, obviously, the first 2 hours. We'll get back to that. But first, let's talk about Saturday's Pitt game. Ron, right now, Pitt is still in a position of winning the Coastal. However, instead of being 4-0 after that loss to an unranked Miami team, they're 3-1 with Virginia at 4-2, and they have a head-to-head game with Virginia later in the year. Do you expect Pitt to still win the Coastal? And if they don't, how would you label this season?
I would label it really a disaster if they don't win the Coastal. I still think they're going to. I don't think any of the teams they're going to play yet. The Miami quarterback was really good, but I don't want to minimize. It was a horrible loss for Pitt. Pass defense, they gave up a zillion yards, couldn't make a stop at the end. I heard people say, "Oh, they got a safety there." Well, maybe they had a safety, maybe not. The replays weren't clear enough to show it. Next play, 2nd and 11 at the 1 yard line, they give up an 18-yard pass. Stop them there on downs. Play calling on the trick play with the tight end throwing the ball at the 5 yard line instead of maybe the best quarterback in the country. It was just a miserable loss. They don't win the ACC, it will be, or at least the Coastal Division, it will be a miserable season.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, my question would be, what if they don't win the ACC? If they don't win the Coastal, it's a disastrous season.
Yes.
If they don't win the ACC title overall, it's a failure. They've been favored to do it. They've got the best quarterback, although the Miami kid looked really good the other day. And I don't know if they're going to win the Coastal. Are they? They're going to go in. Are they going to beat Virginia? They're going to beat North Carolina? What has always been true for
Syracuse, you could throw that in there because they've been a thorn in the side.
They have Duke this week. I think we could play Duke. They stink. But other than that, any of those three teams could beat them. But, I mean, I think Pitt will be favored in all those games.
I would say so. And what has mostly always been true of Narduzzi's teams is still true. There was a coach earlier this year, Ron. You and I talked about it. I can't remember who it was. It was a damning statement about how they're doing the same things defensively that they've always done.
That was a Western Michigan coach.
Was it?
Yeah.
That they've always done. So he leaves himself vulnerable every week to good quarterbacks because he leaves his defensive backs on an island.
Right.
I wasn't aware that Tyler – is it Tyler or Taylor?
It was
Tyler
Van
Dyke.
Jerry Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke's
Dick Van Dyke, yes.
Long-lost cousin.
That he was this good. If I'd known, then I might have gone the other way on this prediction. Any good quarterback and explosive team is going to take advantage of that. I just don't know how many are left on the schedule.
Two of them.
North Carolina could.
And Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia. They both score a lot of points, and they give up a lot of points too. But
it's just the same all the time. And don't forget, Clemson dropped a touchdown pass too the week before. Would have put them up 14-0.
And the other thing, the crowd was so disappointing on Saturday. Did you see the pictures of the upper deck?
And the lower deck.
You know, and I know Narduzzi talked about the Clemson game. It was like an electric atmosphere. Then I watched that Ohio State game Saturday night. That's an electric Michigan State. That's an electric atmosphere. Penn State, Georgia, Florida. What they had for the Clemson game was electric for them, but not electric. Electric.
All right, move on. Same component of that game. Kenny Pickett throws for over 500 yards. Yes, he had 2 picks. But theoretically, should a Heisman candidate or extend it to other sports, an MVP candidate, Joe, lose ground because your team loses?
Yeah, if you throw 2 interceptions in the game.
One was really bad. The first one was really bad.
Okay, but
Joe,
I can also cite for you guys, the guys who are in that Heisman, they've all thrown interceptions.
I don't know if Addison ran the wrong route or not.
Yeah, maybe,
the first
although he almost had another one too.
The first one, Addison was wide open, and he threw it to the other guy. Yeah, it's Pitt. And when you're playing against equal competition, and there's some other good quarterbacks in the country, your team loses, you get penalized for it.
And you also don't get big games, big notices. Like I'm surprised, again, another noon start for them. I was surprised Miami was a noon start. I thought they'd get more prime time, more availability.
Duke doesn't matter this week.
On the ACC network? I mean,
right.
Did you see what what's the kid's name? Bryce Young? In his last game was a couple weeks ago. He hasn't done anything to hurt his stock. Did you see what the kid from Oklahoma did? The kid who's starting now, Caleb Williams, is it? 5 touchdowns. So if your question is, Can you lose ground, or should you lose ground? Yeah, if the other guys are winning and not throwing an
And
interception.
the damn coaches don't even have enough faith in him to throw the ball on third down. They let the tight end throw it.
That was unbelievable.
At the 5-yard line. I still can't believe it. And that's one of those ones, Joe, we were talking about. If Boswell completes that pass, people are going to say, oh, it was a great call. No, it wasn't. And if that tight end completes that pass, it's still not a great call. You have your quarterback,
I agree,
who's the great quarterback, throw the ball.
And that's also a thing that goes back into history. I remember Ron and I and Paul Zeiss, who may or may not have been late to the game, were sitting in Syracuse one day when, and this might not have been the game, but it might have, when Pitt had a 4th down late in the game and they ran some crazy play under Walt that didn't involve Tyler Palko. And my take was is the same here. If I'm gonna leave a game not having fired that bullet, I just can't look myself in the mirror. The game's on the line. I can live with it if my best guy fails. Otherwise, I can't.
Walt also did that with Larry Fitzgerald in the Continental Tire Bowl against Heath Miller in Virginia. My recollection is they had the ball like 1st and goal at the 10. 4 plays. I don't think Fitzgerald was on the field.
That would be correct. I remember that.
And other guys, just to finish that topic, other guys had huge weeks and wins. Michigan State kid, 23, with the Walker kid, 23 for 197 and 5 touchdowns. So Pickett.
Again, a big game, a marquee game. That's the ones that Pitt will not get now moving forward.
Right. He was really good at times. I mean, he was great for a lot of the game, but his team lost. He threw a big pick, wound up with 2, and other people had great games. And
all right, moving on. Hockey, we haven't talked about them. The Penguins are 3-3-2 now after 3 straight regulation losses, all at home. Now, I know it's only November the 1st. However, they are dead last in their division. And you see teams like Carolina still undefeated, 8-0-0, Washington 5-0-3, the Rangers, Columbus, the Fly, all of them. And I'm not saying anything other than it's early. However, what are the Penguins going to have to do, aside from health, to stay in this conversation in this division? Because this division, as I thought going into this, Joe, was going to be the toughest division in hockey. I still believe that.
Health, but I think it might already be too late to win the division. Carolina's already 8 points up on the Penguins already. They're 8-0.
And the Penguins, they're going to have 6 of their first 8 at home, and then they go on the road.
And don't forget, first of all, everybody in that division looks decent so far. Every single team. The Islanders are playing 13 in a row on the road to start the season. I don't think the Penguins are going to win the division, but I never did. The question for me involves the other division and trying to get a wild card. And you're looking at Panthers, Lightning. I think they're shoo-ins both. And then Leafs and Bruins. So can they finish ahead of one of those 2 teams to get a wild card? It's going to be a battle. But you're right. Here they sit. After all the accolades for their start, deservedly so, but they're in last place, Ron.
Yeah, they've lost 5 games out of 8.
Right.
I know they got points and a couple loser points, but, I mean, I think health will help them significantly. Sidney didn't look very good on Saturday night, but, it's hard to expect him to jump right back in and be great. I would think he'll be much better this week, but there's no doubt these points all count now. That's why we were so encouraged that they got points in their first 5 games. You're going to need them.
All right, now we're talking NFL trade deadline. It's Tuesday at 4. We haven't talked about this yet today. So, Ron, to you first. 2 guys on the docket here, potentially. That one would be one would be Eric Ebron, because he has fallen. Clearly, I think the third on the tight end. At least I think it is. Zach Gentry's moving up, and he would appear to be ahead of him. Do you trade Eric Ebron or Melvin
Ingram?
I'm getting
You're
Melvin Gordon.
You're having a little bit of trouble being the host of this showdown here, aren't you?
You guys talk so much. I'm looking at the clock. I'm trying to be clock conscious here.
Hey, don't. Joe doesn't ever care about it.
But anyway, 2 guys to be traded. Now, they've lost draft picks. They've traded one for Witherspoon, who doesn't play. They traded one for Schobert. So they're going to want to get one back. Do they do that with a tight end? Do you think they could do that with Ebron? And do they do it, more importantly, with an outside linebacker?
I'm not trading Ingram. I didn't notice Taco much yesterday. He played. I didn't notice him, good or bad. I have no problem they trade Ebron. I mean, Freiermuth has settled in. I think Zach Gentry has really come on at that position. You want to get a draft choice, I'd trade Ebron. I don't know that I'd trade Ingram, though, unless his attitude is such that he's totally quitting on you. I don't know.
I'd do the opposite, I think. Ebron, to me, his comments last week, I didn't have a problem with, and I've heard nothing that he's becoming a problem, and I like that insurance policy myself.
I didn't say he was a problem. I'm saying
No,
he's
I know.
falling
No, I know you
behind.
didn't.
And they have more depth.
I know you didn't.
They have two tight ends. They don't have anybody backing up the two outside linebackers. That's the only reason.
Well,
I look
ideally,
at Ingram.
yeah, ideally I wouldn't trade Ingram, but I'm not sure he's not going to be a problem. This appears to be a problem, and they appear to have already been preparing for it by trying to get Merciless a couple weeks ago.
And then elevating Taco.
Yeah. So, oh well. I don't want to have a guy who's going to be a problem. I'm not guaranteeing that he will, but the signs aren't good, are they?
No. Another interesting question is Zach Banner. So he's been fully participating in practice, yet he's not been active. So, Ron, why has he not been active?
I think they're happy with the cohesion they're developing. The line is getting better. And let's face it, Zach Banner's played, what, 3/4 of a game as a starting tackle? It's not exactly like this is John Kolb or Anthony Munoz. I mean, I don't know how good he is. I think they're going to keep him. He'll be insurance. I think they're happy with what Chooks and Moore are doing.
So do I, but the question for me is, did Joe Haig get a helmet yesterday?
I think he did.
I think
so
he
is
did.
Zach Banner, did they not think he's better
Well,
than
that's my
Joe
point.
Haig? If he's activated,
If he's
then give him a
activated
helmet.
and fully participating in
And
practice,
if he's not
wouldn't you
better than
want
Joe
him
Haig, then
better?
forget it.
Right.
Right?
No, I agree. That's why it's strange to me that he hasn't even been active. Unless he's still dealing with, maybe they don't feel he's ready based on, how he's come back from his injury. I don't know. But it seems strange given the fact that he was slated to be the starter again.
I'll say.
All right. So yes or no? Deshaun Watson is traded at the 4 p.m. Tuesday deadline. Yes or no?
No. I saw Andrew Brandt, who I have a lot of respect for, former Packers GM, who said anybody who thinks Watson will be able to play this year is crazy, that the NFL will not allow him to play. And I just don't think anybody's going to give up, try to get him for next year, not knowing what the situation is, Joe.
Well, it just doesn't seem like Miami is as invested as they were, though you'd think they would be. But now I'm reading reports that say that he's just going to stay put, that the Texans are going to have him stay put. John McCain, who covers the team there, said yes. And I respect Andrew Brandt, too, although he's been very wrong about a couple things. Like there's no way at all, like zero chance the Steelers are going to trade Antonio Brown because of the dead cap space they would face there. So who knows? But I think at this point, according to reports, that I think Watson's just going to stay there and languish.
All right. One other guy who is really, I think, available because Miami stinks right now is Xavien Howard. He's a cornerback. He's one of the best in the game. Even though he's getting up there in age, he's still very good. So, Ron, I'm not saying the Steelers would do this, but if you were a team in need, would you make a trade for that guy? And what are you going to give up?
What are you going to have to give up?
Reportedly a second-round pick.
And what's his contract situation? Is he a free agent to be?
I don't know that. But
yeah, I give up a second-round pick for a guy that's a proven cornerback. I don't know that I would if I was the Steelers. I mean, I think they're happy with what their secondary has done. I think they're happy that it's gotten better. I thought they did a pretty good job overall yesterday.
He's got some big old cap hits coming up, 14, 13, and 12.
That's a big old cap hits.
Having said that, he also has 12 interceptions over the past 2 years.
10 in 1 year.
And 2 more this year for a horrible team that's rarely in position to sort of, get those junk interceptions when a team's trying to come back. Yeah, I would do it.
You know who might do it if
Who?
they trade within the division is New England.
Let's talk about them coming up, Bob, but not yet. And thank you for the showdown.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about the Pitt game a little further and some incredible decisions in that game and outrage about the officiating. Do you feel that the officials cost Pitt that game? 412-928-9370, 928-9370. Then we'll swing back to the NFL and, of course, to Steelers-Browns. It's Cook and Joe with Bob in studio. You can text us on the Edgar Snyder and Associates fan text line, 412-928-9370. Edgar Snyder and Associates reminds you to text responsibly. You can follow us on Twitter at 93.7 The Fan, driven by Jim Shorkey Kia, Pittsburgh's #1 Kia dealer, with locations in Wexford, North Huntington, and Uniontown. Visit shorkeykia.com. Bob, what's the date today? Oh, it's the 1st, right?
November the 1st,
yesterday-
a new month is here.
Did you trick or treat yesterday?
No, I worked all day. My wife did. She was manning everything.
Full candy bars or half?
Full. And thankfully, we have some left, which means
Bring them in.
I got to tell you a story about Halloween. We drove up together to Cleveland. We all met at Dulac's house, Batko and me, and Ray Fittipaldo. And when we get in the car, Mrs. Dulac, Barb, had packed us all a little treat bag with some nice stuff in it, like some combos, some peanut M&Ms, some honey roasted peanuts. So, Mrs. Barb Dulac, thank you very much for thinking of the boys. It was very, very nice.
she's a lovely lady.